everybody. I'm George.
And I'm Bob. We're the Shipping Goblins from Beetle and Grips. Today, we're going to talk about the amazing Map Vault Collection. And with the Map Vault Collection, you get a bunch of gorgeous two-sided maps, all scaled for standard minis.
Yeah, get yours now for the Map Vault Collection from Beetle and Grim, and all the players at your table will be revved up and hyper because the only thing they'll be able to say is...
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Zoinks!
Yeah, do it again.
Zoinks!
Hello?
Who do you think you are?
Yes, Mr. Lillard.
You're just some common.
Yes, sir.
You can't just go off and use my
It's your
voice
thing.
like that. I have rights.
Completely. We just thought...
Wait,
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna take this right to
yes,
the
sir.
Beetle. Hey, Grim.
Thank you, sir.
What happened?
Matthew Lillard watches our show!
Zoinks!
Double
And hello, we should be here. I think we are. Hello, welcome to Band of Badgers. I'm Dave, your host for this evening, and this, as always, is the Great British Brush Off. I was just telling Joe you need to switch your cameras around. This is the this is the technical special, and this particular episode we are going to be learning how to do weathering effects to all your minis and models and busts and all that kind of thing. So welcome to our special guest artist. This is James Regan.
Hi.
Hi,
Thanks for
James.
having me.
Not a problem.
Evening, James.
Hello.
And we are outputting sound on stream as well.
Oh, there we go. That's handy. Otherwise we've got to do it all again. Now James is from Redgrass Games. He's the community manager, but he's also got his own thing out there called MJG Paints. You'll find that going up into live chat if you're watching this on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, tough. MJG_paints. You have to type it in manually so you can find him. Thank you. Always.
Put it in comments.
We could put. Yeah. I'll let you do that, Steve. You could do that.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you to, as always, to Beetle and Grims. Thank you also to Vallejo. And thank you to Redgrass Games, who supplied us with these fantastic. I was going to say wet and erase. Wet palettes.
And painting handles.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic painting handles, which you will see once we change the cameras around. But most of all, thank you to you for watching. Yes, it means a lot to us. Thank you. But if you would like to support us, you can. You can always support the Twitch channel with our Prime subs. You can also find us on Patreon. We've had a few people sign up for it recently, which is pretty good. I think we've nearly hit £20. But if you would like to support us, you can. Go on, it's £1. Dig deep.
That is some beer and pizza. It was the beer and pizza campaign. We have achieved beer and pizza.
Well, we're on the way to achieving beer and pizza. We haven't yet had beer and pizza.
No, we haven't, but there may be funds there to do
So,
so.
if you don't know what Band of Badgers is all about, we try to help support writers, artists, designers, and creators across all of our shows from all around the world. So if you'd like to get in touch, please do. Now, you can find all of our content, all of our shows, our games, our interviews, our Q&As, all on YouTube. YouTube.com/Band of Badgers. I don't know why I do it like that. It's just fun. So please go and subscribe to that place as well, because every little bit helps. Okay, I'm not going to pat my bum, because that probably won't mean to a lot of people. I don't know. Do they have Asda? Like, dun dun? I don't really think they do. All around the world. But you are always welcome to pat my bum. There we go. Let's start as we mean to go on. So,
Wow.
today I'm gonna just move the cameras around, and James, it is over to you. So Steve, Joe, you can switch your cameras around. James, you stay there until you're ready.
Okay.
Go!
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Right, what are we doing, James?
So I suppose we're going to go from. Well, I suppose we're going to go from sort of dirt, which is your mind, and to a different kind of dirt, which is weathering techniques. And I really enjoy doing it. I know that it's often a bit daunting for miniature painters because it's the box of a lot of miniatures that you get. You know, it's very pristine. If you think about the heavy metal style for Games Workshop, everything's crisp and clean. But for me, I quite like to ground my miniatures in a sense of realism, like they've actually been in the environment that you base them on. And so, yeah, we're going to be just exploring ways to kind of rough up our models a little bit. And the beautiful thing about weathering, as I was saying before the show started to you guys, is that there's kind of no hard and fast rules. You can do it quite organically. You can be as messy as you like. And in lots of cases, that actually makes it look more realistic. So I think it's very low stakes risks. You know, as miniature painters, we should take more risks. This is a good place to start because you can't really go wrong. You can just make things more interesting. And often, weathering techniques are very cheap and effective to do. You can use household items. You can use brushes that you thought were dead. So, yeah, hopefully it's easy and people will find it fun and want to do more of it after this. So let's get started. I think, you know, the best way to learn is to do, I find anyway. I'll have to turn around my camera.
Now, obviously, if you're watching this on Twitch live, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can ask James questions, but he probably won't be able to hear you. But if you're asking this on Twitch, if you have a question for James, type question and then type your question into live chat. And either myself, James, Steve, or Joe will try and pick it up and get it answered for you. Now, we're going to have our heads down while we paint, but put your question in chat and we'll get to it anyway.
Can everybody see my desk well enough?
Yes. Do you know what your lid is missing, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, tell me.
It's missing your magnet.
It was time for a product placement, surely.
Yeah.
It's so handy. It sticks to the lid.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
We see it's because my wet palette is about 4 years old and it predates.
Predate the magnet.
Yeah, the magnet. But yeah, when I get one of those tasty new wet palettes, then definitely going to magnetize it.
Cool.
Right, so I have as my painting example this Oruk Mega Boss. You can't really see it, can you? Can I get it closer? Kind of defeats the purpose if people can't see what I'm doing. I wonder if I turn the camera around rather than using the FaceTime camera, which isn't as good. Bear with me, technical difficulties. Is that better? Yeah, I've got this Oruk Mega Boss, which, to be honest, I always wanted to paint anyway. So this being called onto the show was a fantastic excuse to get it. You know, oh, it's an investment. I've left the head off because the head's organic, and we're just looking at sort of rusting metal and whatnot. So for ease, he is currently headless, and obviously I'm using it on the wonderful red grass handle.
Yep.
Nice plug there. But yeah, what's everybody else got?
I've got an iron golem, a Whiskid's iron golem. I have 2 iron golems.
I thought you had 3, Steve.
I've got 3, and the other one I'm not weathering because it's painted in shiny shifter paint.
Is that the Galaxy Dust?
It is, yes. Yeah. So yeah, I've got an iron golem. I've done one just based in white, and then I've roughly painted Vallejo rust paint, a texture of weathering paint over certain areas. I was intending to use a chipping medium on that, so I'll paint the chipping medium over, and then go from there. And then the other one is to a point where I'd normally be putting a wash on it, and with that I was gonna try something else, stippling.
Wonderful. Yeah, great. I think stippling is another example of a painting technique that sounds very scary and daunting to people, but actually, the only thing it's scary to is your paintbrush. So don't pick a paintbrush that you intend to keep for a long time.
Cool. Go for it, Joe. You
Um,
up?
I have got an orc burner bomber because, like you said before, orc things are generally made from scrap. So,
Yes.
yeah, gonna make it look like it's made of many different vehicles pieces. So,
They're a good gift to weathering.
yes.
Great. And Dave, you've got an iron golem as well.
I have got an Iron Golem. Yeah, from WizKids. This is my Iron Man Golem. Because
Oh, I thought I recognised the colours.
why not?
Yeah.
I don't know how to weather him, but the mini itself has a lot of kind of scratches and dents on it. So I'm thinking I'll just kind of use that as my starter.
Yeah.
And see what I can do, basically. I don't think it's going to pick it up on the... Oh, yeah, you can see some of it on the camera, on his gauntlets and things. There are these dents and one on his shoulder there.
Yep.
Like here. That's quite tasty.
Yeah, there's like pock marks on the other one, right, as well.
Yeah, and he's got scratches on the back. Down his back, he's got a nasty gash. And he's got a dent on his head, or like the neck piece on his head. So I think there's a few bits there that I can play with. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, as I was saying to you guys before we started, the first thing I'd like to do, or rather just show, isn't actually a painting technique at all. It's a kind of DIY at home technique, which is to use old bicarbonate of soda.
Cool.
So people who perhaps already know me and my weathering techniques know I'm a big fan of this, but it takes about two minutes to show. So I thought I would kind of just do that now.
Go for it.
But a good way to pre-texture your rusty models is to apply superglue and bicarbonate of soda. So for instance, if we think about this guy's axe, often when you see kind of old rusted weapons, they're very rough textured, and sometimes that can be very hard to stimulate with paint. So if we do it with superglue and bicarb, it's really, really straightforward. So all you have to do is get a bit of superglue. I totally chose the wrong superglue because it's thick kind. Then just kind of spread it out with a applicator, or in this case, a bit of old brass pinning rod. And then all you have to do is get your old bicarb of soda. I can take a pinch and get my fingers in. And then all you have to do, I don't know if you can see, is sprinkle the bicarb. Oh, way too much there, but it doesn't matter actually, because then all you have to do is blow off the excess. I'll do that off to the side, like that, and then it's instantly dried because the superglue and baking bicarb activate one another, and so they set instantly. I can touch it and it doesn't come off, but it's given a nice, really rough texture.
Cool.
And here's one I made earlier, a la Blue Peter. on the bottom of this tank, can you see where it's gone all bobbly?
Yeah.
So that's it. That's bicarb of soda and superglue, and it creates that like really realistic looking, like the metal's corrupted. So yeah, the first technique I wanted to show you isn't a painting one at all, but it is a lot of fun to do, and it's very easy to do, and it basically costs you nothing. So that's quite fun.
That's really good. I like that.
Nifty, very nifty. Right, okay, let's actually start with some painting. So on my wet palette, I've just got a random assortment of sort of variations of brown and orange. So for instance, I've got a Vallejo Technical. It's called Rust Texture. It's actually a primer, but you can just use it like it's just a nice brown, very dark brown. My favorite ones to use, if I was to recommend no other paints for weathering, would be Hull Red and Cavalry Brown, because they just play very nicely. They work well together. You can thin them into kind of streaky grime very nicely. They're just great for weathering. So if you only get hold of two, I would recommend those two. But you know, an orange is pretty good for kind of really, really oxidized iron. And then some dark browns are always handy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get a nice, nasty old paintbrush. So I don't know if you can see this one. It's an old Citadel dry brush. Had it for about 4 years. It's useless for normal painting, but because it's all splayed, it's going to give us a really nice randomized pattern to apply onto the model. So if you've got your paintbrushes at the ready, we can actually get started. Obviously, if there's any questions, just stop me.
Which colour are we using first? Just a mixture of those kind of browns and reds.
Well, hopefully what we'll do is a little bit of wet and wet. So because we kind of want them to blend on the model and in the paintbrush.
Yeah.
So if you set out some of the colours you would like to try, like I've done on my wet palette, you can very quickly just move between different ones relatively easily. So we won't start until you're ready.
Okay,
but,
so for example, Iron Man, what would you suggest? Is it just kind of reds and browns, or a darker red?
So brown's a good place to start because brown will weather red and gold very nicely.
Fine, I've got a brown. There we go. Okay. So
basically, go for different tones of brown. So, if you've got a greeny brown, that might be quite nice on the red because obviously green is opposite red on the color wheel.
Try that one.
We've got a question in chat already. This is going to sound stupid and a bit of wind up, but it genuinely isn't. If you drop vinegar on the soda, would it bubble and look diseased or plague-ridden?
Yes. Yeah. Classic. Was that making a volcano in geography? It would. The only thing I couldn't comment on is how it would dry. So, as it is on this Auroch Megaboss axe, it's solid. I can paint over the top of that with no problem. I don't know what it would be like with the vinegar. I don't know if it would stay soft for a really long time, and thus, when you paint over the top or try to paint over the top, would it just actually gunk up your brush? So that might be one you have to experiment with, Will. But, weathering is about experimenting, so if it's successful, let us know. That'd be great.
Cool.
Have we got a selection of colours?
I think so.
Yep.
Okay, so if I start, and then you can just see how that works, and then if you've got any questions, just let me know. So I'm going to start with my darkest brown, which was the rust texture one, the Vallejo Mecha, and I'm just going to stab it on with my old dry brush, like that. See? And then immediately I'm going to go into my Hull Red. I haven't changed palette. I haven't changed the colours on my brush. I'm mixing it into the colour that's already on the shoulder pad. Then I've got a bit of this burnt red, and I'm putting that in there as well. Let's get some of the orange in. It's a very vibrant orange. So we don't want to put on last. We kind of want to put it on relatively early, and then cover it up, mute it down a little bit so it's a bit more natural looking. And then you can just basically spread it out. Just keep stabbing with your brush. Like that. And you think, okay, well, let's add in a bit of this flat earth, which is a sort of a yellowy brown. Just try and make it as randomized as possible. The worse it looks, the better it will look in the end, because that's kind of how rust works in the real world. Orange. Then I've neglected cavalry brown, so I'm going to put some of that in there. It's also good, especially if you've got silver or something, you leave patches in as well, because when we chip it, there will be flecks of chip that are fresher and they won't have oxidized yet, so they will still look like bare metal. So you don't have to cover the whole thing, is what I'm saying. It's actually more effective if you don't. Yeah. Is everyone okay? Is there any questions, or kind of all happy?
Yeah.
I think
But you
so.
can see why I suggest using an old brush.
Yes.
Stab away. Think about all of life's great grievances. Don't be afraid to blend the colours on the model as well. Like, make new colours that don't exist in a pot somewhere. That kind of variation is going to look really great.
You can hear people breathing now. They're concentrating.
That's a good sign. It's also an incredibly fast technique. Like, I've done the first quarter of the model already. And, obviously I'm stopping to chat and, I'm being quite slow than I would be normally.
Because it's just very kind of haphazard, isn't it? Find a place where you want to do it, apply it, and that's it.
Yeah, and actually this, don't even think that hard, because as I was saying to you guys before we started, the human brain has a nasty habit of trying to make patterns even when we don't realize subconsciously.
Yeah.
And obviously if things look too regular for weathering, it's not going to look very good as weathering. So yeah, try to feel more than think when it comes to this. But yeah, dare to be. Don't worry that you're going to get it wrong, because you can't get weathering wrong.
I can try. I can try really hard.
Not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah.
Will said thank you for the painting handle. It came the other day and is great.
Oh, wonderful. I'm really glad. Now you've got to start to see what limits it's got, like how big a model you can get on it and stuff. But it's very handy to be able to swivel it like this when you're playing wet on wet and you need to move fast because the paint dries on the brush. It's very handy to just be able to swivel like that and get to the new area very quickly with the paint that's already on your brush.
That is the best thing about it, definitely. It's, yeah, spin it backwards and forwards and dab away.
I hate that. I've just found bits on the model that I missed painting.
I hate that.
It's like, oh no, I missed a bit. I wonder if I can...
Now, truly, Dave, you are a miniature painter.
There we go.
Have you glued your fingers to a model yet?
No, I have glued them to the super glue lid.
That still counts.
Count that one, yeah.
I was like, oh no! And then it's like, a sudden panic.
It's a crime because your fingerprints have been ripped off by super glue. Then you know you've made it.
Yeah.
Right, I think I am done. Oh no, I'm not. Lied. Missed one side of the axe. But actually, I'll take this opportunity. You can see. Wish you could if I had a decent setup.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I got what you mean now. Yeah. Once it focuses, you'll be able to see it. But
wish it would focus. There we go.
boom.
So you can actually see on the blade itself where I didn't apply the
Yeah.
bicarb versus where I did. Like, you can't beat that texturing. Like, you could be the best painter in the world and you can spend a long time trying to simulate a 3D effect with paint, or you could spend the 10 seconds with bicarb soda and superglue and make the texture before you even apply paint. So
It
it's well.
reminds me of Steve might probably remember. So in Judge Dredd, or in Judge Dredd
Yeah.
universe, there was a bunch of robots from the Lost War.
The ABC Warriors.
ABC Warriors. There we go. It's just straight away with all that rust. It reminded me of that.
Yeah. Well, any kind of warriors like that, you know, your orcs in 40k or Age of Sigmar, you know, maybe a Warforged from D&D who's been rusted over, like,
Yeah.
great, really works. Okay, so and also the method you've applied this paint, kind of like a stippling, really. Obviously, that textures the paint that you apply as well. Because it will be thicker and thinner in different areas, and it will have blended in different ways. So you may have to wait slightly longer for it to dry, but I mean longer in terms of, you know, acrylic paint drying. It's going to take a couple of minutes rather than 20 seconds.
Yeah. And how often do you use this technique yourself?
The bicarb one.
Any of them? What's your out of the various weather and effects? What do you have a particular favourite?
Yeah, so my favourite by far, and it's not necessarily the most efficient, but it is my favourite by far, is the chipping fluid that we're going to talk about pretty soon. Just because I find it so fun. And, you know, if painting isn't fun, why are you doing it? So it's obviously it takes a bit more setup than other weathering techniques we can do. So obviously Joe's given us a teaser by applying with the sponge and the tweezers. Like, you can do that. You can do that at any stage of painting, and it's quite easy and it's still quite fun, right, Joe?
I didn't have a manky brush to hand, so I just went with tweezers.
I love it. It's perfect. But what I mean is, compared to the sponge chipping method, chipping fluid takes more time. But I think the payoff is worth it because it's just so rewarding to put water on and then start peeling away. And hopefully people will see that tonight and be inclined to agree with me.
Cool. I don't think my stippling has been aggressive enough. Mine's coming out pretty flat.
I mean, don't worry, it's all a learning curve, isn't it? It's these things come over time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will still be very useful.
Cool. How's everybody doing? Everyone's gone quiet. Everyone's concentrating again.
Good. Yeah. And I'm just looking at that lilac oxide that I put on. Some places it looks good, and I think on the edges and the sort of rounded surfaces it looks better than on the flat areas. But I don't know if that's my application rather than the paint itself.
Well, I also think as well that actually weathering will accumulate in very sharp areas. Like it does look better on corners and kind of recesses and things like that. So we can make it work. It's fine that it doesn't look as good on flat areas because they're less likely to get weathered than say the leading edges of your wingtips. So if it, yeah, you've actually just probably done it more realistically without even realizing.
That's why for the chipping medium I was going to do pretty much the front of all of the wings and I can't remember what these are called.
The nacelles or something.
Back
The
wings,
phalanges.
Phalanges, yeah, maybe I think that's what they're called. Isn't it?
Phalanges.
Yeah.
So with the chipping medium, the much lauded, here we go. Lots of companies do it. I know Vallejo and Amomig do good ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've applied this through an airbrush. It's slightly too thick for an airbrush, but in a way that's quite good because it spits it out, and that randomizes which bits are going to get chipped. So that's another easy, quick tip. You can apply it with one of your sponges, like Joe's got with the old packing foam. That will randomize how you put it on. My only tip would be, because we're paintbrushing it on tonight, try and apply it quite thinly. Because the thicker it is, the longer it will take to dry, and the harder it will be to reactivate afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And obviously it's water activated, so try to keep it away from any water.
And you don't want to paint. Do you want to paint it along the whole area, or just like pick out places that you want?
Well, you can do it either way. It just requires a different level of care at each stage. So I would say just put it where you want to chip. You could put it all over, but it means later on when you're doing the water thing, you'll have to be careful about where you
Place
add
the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's many different roads to success.
Yep.
So I'm going to put my little bit of chipping fluid into like a well, like a little wet well, and you can see it's quite jelly, like compared to, I mean, it still flows, but it's thicker than water.
I got mine on. Mine says it's water-based chipping medium. I got mine on Amazon for £2.50, so I hope it's the right stuff.
It's Vallejo, right? It's just a different.
It says it's Vallejo. It's Amazon. Who knows?
It's just a different label, but it's the same thing.
Cool.
Yeah. And all you need to do is get a brush or sponge. We could try sponge. That might help us keep it thin. As Joe's already been doing, I like to do. If you ever get like blister packs or clam packs, as they're called, and you get the little bit of packing foam in the back, keep it and tear it up, like rough it up so it's all random. And this is great for either randomizing your chipping or applying this chipping fluid. Like, it's really easy.
Okay.
So I just.
You're not on camera at the moment. You're kind of off.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep.
So I put a bit of chipping fluid on, and then just sponge it on like that, and keep it random.
Cool.
So don't worry about hitting all the areas.
Does it matter if you get it on surfaces that you are gonna like that you don't want chipped? I know it sounds.
So wait for it to dry, and then obviously apply, your top coat colours, and when they're dried, what you can do is just varnish them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do your water thing, they won't reactivate the surfaces that you varnished.
Okay.
So obviously then that is a bit annoying because there's like an added wait time, because then you've got to like let the varnish dry as well. But in the grand scheme of things, that's probably preferable.
So we've got a question from chat.
Yeah.
Could you mix a dark wash with your glue to give it a shadowy look before putting the bicarbonate on it?
I can't see why not. Obviously, the only issue here is because we're painting straight over the bicarb glue thing. You're going to completely lose that shadow. So what I would do is do this as I've got it so far, and then we'll do the next stage together as a group anyway, and then add your shadows with something like Agrax or non-oil or whatever shadow washes you like to do. So you could do it to the glue stage, but I think you'd probably end up having to do it again anyway to reintroduce those shadows that have been lost through the subsequent stages.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my advice. And there you go. I pretty much applied as much chipping fluid as I want to. You can see where it is because it's shiny. It looks like varnish. In many ways, it behaves a lot like acrylic varnishes that we use. And this is the big downside that I was telling Joe, is now you have to wait for it to dry. And it's probably got quite a similar drying time to varnish or Citadel washes. That's the bit in the Warhammer TV video where they say, right, go and have a cup of tea and come back. Because I think acrylic paint teaches us to be impatient because it dries so quickly. We get used to expecting things to happen straight away. But sometimes it's good to wait. Good things come to those who wait.
I know that the painters that work for GW use hair dryers.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're also in a time restraint.
Absolutely. And you can get additives that you can add to your paint to speed up the drying time. So things like Flow Improver, for instance, slow it down. So if you want to do wet blending on the model, that's a great way to slow down the drying time. And then you can get agents that quicken it up. Or you could be an absolute mad lad and start using oils, which take days to dry. But, there's a good reason why painters have been using oil paints for literally thousands of years. How's everyone getting on? Everyone happy?
I think so. Yeah, I think, as you said, just waiting for it to dry.
Yeah.
If you have more questions, don't be shy. Do shout them out. We have some giveaways this evening. So James will pick the best questions. So,
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, keep the questions coming, and the best questions will win one of the giveaways for this evening. It's a physical item. It's not a PDF, so it's well worth grabbing.
It's not my time either, so even better.
Yeah.
Just really enjoying that smooth 360 action.
Yeah, looking good.
On your red, actually, it might be fun. I'm thinking Joe and Dave with your reds. It might be fun just to splotch on just a very small, like either flick it on with your brush or Joe use your sponge, little bit of maybe pink, just to add a bit of a stronger contrast, like really, really small amounts, almost like to the scale of like raindrops.
Yeah, I mean that's what I did, but with like a really, really vibrant orange.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Cool.
great. Yeah.
Because I suppose it's kind of in this almost same area, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because also when we think about weathering, we also get dents, especially in metal. So they don't like cause the paint to completely chip, but they might cause the kind of the body or the chassis or whatever to ding. And then that will simulate how the light is hitting that one area a little bit differently to the rest of the surface, without it looking like a full chip. So that's quite a fun one to try.
Yeah,
It's a good one on blue, actually.
this iron golem has a few kind of rounded dents. It's actually the more you look at it, the more you see it's been through the wars quite a bit.
The other thing you can do is just take a scalpel or something to it as well.
Yeah.
Make
Add your own.
Yeah.
So if you use something like Tamiya, extra thin cement, like that,
Yeah.
and a bit of old sprue. If you basically melt the old sprue into the Tamiya,
Yeah.
extra thin cement, it will come up with this kind of sludgy paste. And I know that tank modelers, for instance, can use that to represent Zimmerite.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good one. You can just get some of the glue, slap it straight onto the model, and it will start to melt the surface of the plastic. And you can use a toothbrush or a scouring pad and just very lightly scratch the surface with that. And that's really easy as well. That's a really fun one.
What's the best way of doing heat damage, like on the end of a gun or at the end of a jetpack?
Ooh, nice one. So there is. I'm sorry, Vallejo. Mine's Ammo MIG, but I'm sure they do one as well. But you can get something called metal slag. It's a pigment. Hopefully, we'll talk about pigments at the end. You can put that, just dust. It's basically like dust. Just dust it onto the barrels of your gun, and that looks like a really nice sooty burn. Equally, if you have Citadel washers lying around, just make up go Druki Violet down kind of 4/5 of the barrel, then go Agrax Earthshade 3/5 of the barrel, and then at the very end go Nuln Oil, and that will look like successive sort of layers of metallic heat burn, and that's very easy to do, and it looks really easy. It's really easy to do, and it looks really good.
Cool.
We've got another question from that Beyond the Light. How much of your soul do you need to sell to get to your inspiring level, James?
He says with a devilish laugh there.
All you need to do is win.
Sign here.
Just go down to Georgia and beat the devil in a fiddle contest.
Yeah. Crossroads, right?
It's Crossroads.
Yeah.
Isn't it guitar?
Yeah, guitar's fine. It just takes time and not having a life. So, when people say, "Oh, what do you do for fun?" It's like this.
Yeah.
Like, what's your secret? I have no life. This is it. But yeah, I'm 4 years down the line, so.
Right.
And it's most weeks, so.
We've got a friend who also streams called Duck Guts, so go check him out as well. But he's so annoying. He'll like show you his model, and it is just amazing. Like he's just a really good painter, and he'll be like, "I've only been painting for 4 months," and you're just like, "Seriously, stop saying that."
Everybody learns and experiences and progresses at different levels, right? So
yeah.
Like, obviously, it's really easy. I mean, I still get demoralized. You know, I put something up that I think I'm really proud of, and then I see, you know, a kind of crystal brush golden demon winner, and I think, oh my god, I'm used to them. But like, we all do it. But the
Yeah.
best thing to remember is you're actually just on your own journey,
Mhm.
competing with your last paint job. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think comparing yourself to other people's never a good thing, really.
down that road lies madness for sure.
How you doing, Steve? You gone quiet again?
I'm waiting for this varnish to dry, and I'm just having a go at trying to put some oil stains, because the way I intended to paint this one was as a warforged, and warforged the metal and wood.
Oh, nice.
So I was going to oxidize the metal pieces and stain the wood with oil and grease.
Great.
So
Grimy green is your friend for wood. So things like Slimy Green Light by Vallejo and Slimy Green Dark by Vallejo, what looks wonderful on wood, and they play really nicely together, and you can layer them to get darker or lighter effects, and yeah, that's a really nice one, especially on wood.
cool. Okay. Well, I've brushed some Mesa oil on, so I was going to do the oil, but then I can layer the slimy green over the top.
Yeah. And then, you know, if you get like enamel versions or oil versions, then you definitely can layer them over the top, because they interact at different levels, so you can really go to town playing with them.
Cool. Have you got any specific weathering techniques for weapons?
How well, depends on the weapon, right?
Well, let's go with swords, seeing as that's what I've got in front of me.
Yeah. Well, so for instance, with the axe that I've got on this guy, this Orc Mega Boss, like I said, I do like to pre-texture it with the bicarb, and then it's all about kind of dry brushing is great on these kinds of things, because it gives a really nice texture, and it kind of dries things out and makes them look old and dusty. And you know, I think about the kind of the Draugr in Skyrim, you know, with their old rusty weapons. You know, dry brushing is perfect for weapons, and the dry brush itself, just that method of sort of lightly stroking backwards and forwards, it catches all the raised areas and the nooks and crannies really nicely, and it kind of takes all the hard work out of it for you.
Yeah.
That would definitely be my go-to for sure. So what I'm going to do now is, because there's some areas that are still a bit wet, but I'm going to start applying the kind of base color, if you will, to the areas that I know have dried already, just so I can start showing people the fun part. But obviously, when you're ready, do feel free to move on. Just, you know, give it a little test. Look at it first. If it looks dry, it probably is. You can just tap it with your finger, and if it comes off on your finger, you go, okay, it's not quite dry yet. But for me, that feels okay, so I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it for a chocolate biscuit.
Okay. So explain again. So, for example, for my one, do I put the red back on, or am I looking for like a metal silver?
No. So if you want red to have been the color off the assembly line,
I'd imagine it would have been like pure metal.
Oh yeah, but say so Iron Man sprayed it red before he went into battle.
Yeah.
So the red is what you want, and then we're gonna scratch bits off so that it looks like, okay, the paint got chipped off, and then because it's been neglected, it's oxidized. And then as a finishing touch, we can add in some super fresh chips and scratches with a really bright silver.
Right, so I'm going for my
yeah.
original Iron Man red.
I'm going to use this uncharacteristically sort of grey-green, which is perhaps not a traditional orc colour, but
Hi,
it
Chav.
will contrast very nicely.
Chav is in chat. Hi, Chav. Well done. Yeah, you got all the mini. Who would you get those from? Legendary Adventures. They're a bit. Are they old? They're the old ones, or are they the new ones? Let us know. I'd be interested. Oh, what's that? I don't know what that is.
I think he got them dirt cheap as well, from what you were saying the other day.
That'd be cool. Wow. Yeah, that's really good. So again, we're painting these on or stippling.
Well, this is just your base layer, so however you normally apply your base layer is
I'll
fine.
not use
I
that
would try and
brush.
take it, try and go a little bit lighter,
Yeah.
not too thick, because obviously the thicker you make this layer, the more water you'll have to apply to reactivate the medium underneath. Plus, it doesn't really matter if it looks patchy.
Yeah.
That's actually okay, because that's going to be a really nice color modulation that would come from thing getting rusty and weathered and stuff like that. So again, don't worry about being messy. It doesn't have to be too thin coats, nice and smooth coverage, because it's not going to look like that if it's been left out rusting for decades or whatever.
So you're saying to keep the paint away from, or the chipping medium anyway, away from water. So are we still okay to put what is the top coat into the wet palette?
Yes. So obviously, provided you haven't drenched your wet palette in water. Obviously, I know everybody prefers a different kind of wateriness to their wet palette, but you can see from mine, for instance, there's no water on the surface.
Yeah.
And if I want to thin the paint at this point to apply it, which is not a bad idea, I would use a medium like Lamia medium from Citadel, or Vallejo's glazing medium.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you use water, that will start to, reactivate things before you're ready.
Yeah.
The water and the chipping medium will work together to basically loosen the acrylic layer on top of it. And that's why you can just basically brush it away.
Okay.
We don't want to do that just yet.
No. You want to be in control of that part of the process.
Absolutely.
And see, my new weathering technique is called having paint on your thumb and then putting it on your model.
Hey, it works. If it's silly and it works, it's not silly.
Chav, let me know. Send me the link. I'm after some minis. Why am I after minis?
Yes, you can post a link in chat.
You can post a link in the chat, yeah.
If it gets quarantined, then
Post it to
ask
me
anyway.
first.
Collecting minis and painting minis are two separate hobbies.
Cool. So I'm going to talk about minis now. So Chav, where did you get them from? Was that a shop? You got a blue dragon. Oh man.
Yeah, I am totally sold on this wet palette now, as well. By the way,
But you put it through its paces.
yeah, it's just. I don't
It's
think
hard
I'd
to
go back to not having one.
Yeah.
Uh,
For those of you interested in miniature painting and Red Grass Games, check out their Kickstarter. It should come up in live chat at some point.
It's over now. Or
Oh,
I should say
is
over.
it going to be any late pledges and things like that? What comes next on the Kickstarter?
Yeah, we haven't got late pledges per se, but we do have pre-order,
Okay,
which is live on the website.
okay, go to the
Not
website.
quite as many goodies as the Kickstarter, because obviously we want to reward.
The Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are still some pretty nice things to have, and all of the things that will be mainline products in the store eventually, you can pre-order now and sort of get early access dibs.
Cool.
So, yeah, if you missed the Kickstarter, you can still get in on the fun.
Steve, how much did you buy on the Kickstarter?
I went for the Studio Palette pledge. I think
nice.
the second tier version.
nice.
So having this and using it is what convinced me to go and get Kickstarter and get the second one.
Oh, that's awesome! I'm so glad to hear that.
So I had seen, because obviously I've backed other Kickstarters, and it starts to build a profile, and it had alerted me to Redgrass Wet Palette version 2 previously, and I looked at it and thought, oh, that looks really interesting. But yeah, then getting this one and using it, it's like, yeah, no brainer, I'm signing up, and I'll get the big version. Because as you can see, I do like to spread the paints out a little bit. I'm not the tidiest of mixers.
I think that's a-okay. It's interesting actually that you bring it up, because I did a very similar weathering session on the 15th of May, and used similar colours to the ones I've got here with you guys tonight.
Yeah.
And then the room that I'm actually in right now, everything was locked down, tidied up for redecorating. So I completely forgot I had it until tonight. I was like, I really want to use that wet palette because it's a nice small one. It's the painter version. And then I was like, oh wow, I've still got paints on it from the 15th of May, and they were still wet. So I was like, oh wow, okay, wet palettes do work, people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, I posted a video to my Instagram. So don't take my word for it. Actions, not words.
We have a question in chat. Lucilla, True Blade. Question: if you're combining OSL effects with weathering, would you want to have a darker wash for the weather spots, since I'm guessing most weathering effects don't reflect light, as well as undamaged parts?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about, especially the axe blade on here, how the light is going to interact with that compared to, clean, shiny, flat surfaces is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. You'd want darker shadows for rusted surfaces, which would be, because those surfaces would be more matte.
Yeah.
Rusted metal is matte finish, whereas clean off the assembly line metal is kind of a satin or gloss finish. So yes, absolutely would do that, yes. A very good question, but I believe we already rewarded Lucilla Trueblade last time.
It's actually put into live chat. Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting my version 2 palette.
Yeah. That Beyond the Light, about the Darkrons, my dark Necrons. Absolutely, that's actually where I basically honed this idea. So all of the Necrons that I did with this method. So it's tried and tested. I didn't just make it up for tonight and subject these poor people to random nonsense.
I'd show you my Necrons, but they're currently sat in Will's display case.
I could actually, whilst waiting for that to dry, I could actually show you some of mine. That would be helpful. Save you from.
Oh, you might have lost a stream.
No, it came back. I was moving the windows around, and it decided to stick them into corners.
So you see this kinetic reanimator, or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
I mottled all the browns and oranges. Then I applied this kind of blue-grey carapace colour, and then I've chipped it away. And it looks really nice. Look at that, look.
Oh, that's really good.
You know, and it's as difficult as, you know, you found it tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice and easy. Looks better in the photos, obviously.
Cheers, Chav. Well done. Yeah, you got a good set. Yeah, Will's in chat.
Well, did I tell you I now have a fully painted Necron army?
Yeah. What, the one that's going to absolutely smash your Ultramarines tomorrow night?
Ooh.
Sounds like
Then it's
fighting
fighting
talk. Yeah.
What's that? It's a bit
Right,
painted.
so the kind of grey that I applied over the rusted areas has dried. Please note as well, I've done it very patchily. You know, some areas it's thinner than others. That's absolutely okay. That's fine. That simulates how in real life certain painted plates of metal will wear away at different rates. And if people are ready for me to try, I will do the water bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just got my brush, and I put water on it.
Okay, so water on the brush.
I'm going to pin this and watch
And then-
intently.
And then put it on the area you want to chip, and give it 10 seconds or so.
So is this
to
kind of
soak in.
you just let it soak in kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right, I need to find a big gash or dent.
And then start brushing away, and it chips. So you can see on that knee pad, it's
Oh, yeah,
chipped,
orange is starting to come away.
and on the jaw,
Mm-hmm.
just comes away.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but it does it in a way that no human could plan to do it, which is a big advantage.
Yeah.
And there, look, on the shoulder,
Oh wow.
it just pulls away, and it looks really realistic. And it takes no effort. And the more you do it, obviously, the more weathering you'll get. And you can use different things. So you can use a toothbrush if you want to be really hard and scratch away lots. Or you can use sponge if you want to be really gentle and soft. Yeah, look, at this point, you can have as much fun as you like.
So I am applying my water.
And then obviously the excess water will just evaporate, and then you'll be left behind with the knife effect. And you'll have a really nice variation of rusts as well.
Okay, so water is applied, and you literally just, with another paintbrush, just brush it off.
So, well, I mean, you could use the same brush if you like.
Okay.
So put the water onto the area.
Yep.
Let it sit.
Yep.
couple of seconds, and then
Just keep
start brushing. You can see how it comes away.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
How fun is that?
I'm not sure if mine is. I can't tell. Let's try another bit. It's too small.
Please stand by for technical difficulties.
Right. Can't see anything.
You know, and just the way you move your brush across the model, you know, like with dry brushing, you'll catch edges more than flat surfaces, and so they will chip more, which is realistic. So it doesn't really take you, you know, lots of complicated planning to work out where it should chip. It will do it for you. Obviously, it's a bit more involved. It's a bit more involved than dry brushing or chipping it on with a sponge, but I hope you can see the benefits of it and how fun it can be.
That, and because it's varied, it does make it look more realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think either. I just think maybe I need more practice. I'm not seeing any difference.
But if you painted it the same color as the base color, right?
Yeah, but I've got nothing seems to be.
Use a harder tool. So if you've got an old toothbrush or a stiff brush like a dry brush, or if you've got a toothpick or pinning rod, try those and scratch away. Because it could just be that the paint you've used or the medium layer you used is a bit thicker, and so it's taking more time for the water. So you can hurry it along if you like.
If the water's dried by the time we've got to that part, is that
Try doing it again.
an issue, or will it still come off?
Yeah, just add a bit more water and do it again.
Oh yeah.
Question from chat. For the chipping solution, if you're wanting to focus on just the edges, would you want to apply a thin line just to the edges in question?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of similar to what Joe was saying earlier. Was, you know, should you just put the chipping medium everywhere, or should you apply it selectively? I would be inclined to say just apply it selectively. So if you just want it on the edges, just put it on the edges, and that means at this stage you don't have to be as careful, because paint without chipping medium underneath it won't wash away.
Yeah.
So you can be as careless as you like, and it will still be fine.
I've done another dose. We'll see if that bigger selection, bigger area. Oh, I'll do that bit as well. Let's try that.
Really liking that. It's pretty.
Let's have a look, Joe.
There we go. This wing's dry, so it'll probably look better now. See along the
Oh, I
front
see.
there?
Yeah.
And if I flip it upside down, you can see it's all. Going to focus. Trying to focus on my map. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm probably going to not do any more chipping, otherwise I run the risk of drowning that entire model. but I might just lightly dab off some of the excess water just to speed along, so we can get to the next bits. Can you see as well, maybe Joe can better than perhaps Dave at the moment, but can you see as well how you get all those subtle different coloured chips? Because of the way we blotched it on at the very start. When you look at the model now that you're chipping, they're all going to be slightly different. And it's not just going to be one flat rust colour.
That and the edges where it's chipping aren't just. It's almost like fate. It like blends in as well.
Yeah. So it's what what tank weather is called colour modulation.
Yeah.
They apply really thin filters and stuff like that. Well, you've kind of done that just by randomly dabbing on different colours and then blending them on the model. What's the best colour to put under yellow for weathering? Probably brown. Brown's a good rust colour anyway, but it's also not a nice contrast to yellow. It'll be more visible. I tend to like to shade my yellows with an orange to kind of make them quite warm. And then obviously brown works really well with yellow and orange. So brown would be my suggestion, Will.
I should spray this whole plane lead belcher now.
What an excellent question. How much reference material do you use to achieve your weathering? You should absolutely use reference material. God, that's a winning question as far as I'm concerned.
There you go. So that Beyond the Light, you're our first winner this evening.
Right.
And you get to get one of these red grass handles, painting handles. James will arrange to send that out to you.
Yeah, not a problem. But I mean, it's a good question in the sense that I don't think enough miniature painters think about it. And actually, it makes the job much easier if you're essentially copying from real life. So when I take the dog for a walk in the evening, there's an old like lawn roller on the football pitches, and it's just been left. And you just go up to it and you take up nice close-up pictures of how the rust has happened, how different environmental effects have ruined it over God knows how many years, and then just use it. And it's much easier to achieve realistic weathering effects when you're not having to make it up in your head. When you're going, oh, well, that's how that piece of metal looked like in real life, so I'm just going to copy that. So, yeah, absolutely, you should, And there's plenty of pictures, Google images, rusted tanks and whatever, or old buildings. It's a brilliant resource, and you can have it open in front of you when you're painting. You can have it on your phone or on a computer or anything like that. So don't work harder, work smarter.
So, light beyond the light, that beyond the light. Sorry, if you can whisper, Disco, who's our moderator and is also Steve. We need your name, email address, and then we'll send that over to James over at Redgrass. He will then be in touch to get your postal address, and we can arrange to have one of these shipped out to you.
It's like reverse dry brushing.
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, it feels very unnatural to a lot of people when you say, yeah, put the rusting effects on first and then do all the other stuff. And they're like, what? But it is worth it. It's not intuitive, but it is worth it.
That's what. Just not wanting to focus. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, now at this stage, once you've waited for the water or whatever to dry off, then you could give it an optional varnishing. If you're a bit nervous about, doing your finishing touches, you could give it a varnish and then do them. Or, be an absolute mad lad and just go to the next stage, which will probably be something like your washes. So, for instance, I know Steve's got his oil spills, so he could reapply some of those after the chipping stage. I would use oils now, and I would do oil washes because the oil doesn't interact with the acrylic anyway. So, and I just like the finish of oil paints for weathering. So if people want, I can show them how I do that as my next stage.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
You might not have oil paints. That's okay. It's a very cheap investment. I got this big tub of burnt umber for about £2, I think, from an art shop. And, compared to pots of acrylic paint, this is going to last me forever. This will last longer than my painting career. Whereas, a pot of acrylic paint you can get through quite easily in a year. So it's a very good investment. And again, it's very hard to get wrong.
Hey, Angel. Hello, welcome.
Hey, Angel. Nice to see you. Well, not see you, but yeah, nice for you to be here.
Hey, look, I'll send you the Zoom link. You can jump on.
Yeah.
Yeah, show us how it's really done.
I was watching you airbrush the other day on YouTube.
I messaged Angel when I was thinking about upgrading my airbrush to the CR Infinity, and he was like, "It's the best one ever. Do it." So I did. Angel tells you to do something, you do it.
I was against getting one because I didn't want a compressor and everything else that goes with it. And I found a battery-powered airbrush on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I used it tonight to quickly put a base coat of white on one of these, and it's great.
Yeah. I think you can get one for about £50, and it's an e-charging one, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
£50.
Yeah.
I know a couple of people have got them, and they love them.
It's
brilliant.
Angel's Necron. What do you call it? Army that he painted is the way that I've painted mine. I just checked. I was like, I remember that name.
Very nice. So I got a tiny amount of burnt umber in this wavy that I got with my wet palette, and I'm just gonna pipette on some thinner, and that will turn it into a wash.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to use a different brush to the ones I use for my acrylic paints. Never mix them.
That beyond the light, you need to message Steve, who is Disco.
Yeah, I'll reach out. So I'm just gonna finish chipping this.
So I don't know if you can see, I've now got what looks like cold coffee. But that's a really nice consistency for an oil wash. And again, this is another one that doesn't take very much effort. You can just put it straight on to the model and just let it find the recesses. But it doesn't flow like water. You'll notice when you start using it. So it's not like when you use a Citadel wash or a Vallejo wash, for instance. It's almost quite smart. It finds things a lot better than acrylic washes. So it's gone into the gaps around the rivets here really nicely with very little effort on my part. On this chainmail, and unlike acrylic paint, it will be wet for ages. So if you go away for a couple of hours and change your mind, just get a brush loaded with the thinners and you can clean it off with no damage to the paint underneath.
Nice.
Yeah, or you can go, actually, I like this brown, but I want to add in a bit of green. So you get your green oil paint and your thinners and you put it over the top. And they'll blend really subtly together. They look really nice. It does smell though. It's not the worst smell in painting. The worst smell has to be liquid mask, which has a very strong sort of sulfurous ammonia smell.
Oh,
It really stings your nostrils. If you like the smell of petrol stations, you'll be fine with oils. Budgie agrees with me.
I saw a funny thing the other day about parrots, and it's like, if you own a parrot and you're not teaching it to say, "Help, they've turned me into a parrot," what are you doing with your life?
That's a very good point. I just always hear about the ones that swear.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, oils, another one where people are scared to use them, but look at how easy it is. And you can apply it very, very thickly, like all over, and then obviously get your brush soaked in thinners, and that will clean off the areas you don't want to have the dirt. So you can be, it almost rewards being slapdash, which, as painters in a hurry, I think we can all appreciate.
yes.
Well, washes activate the chipping medium as well.
So they shouldn't, provided everything's like fully dry.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously they are more watery, so just be careful. When you're applying the wash, make sure you're kind of dropping it on rather than stroking it on, and you should be fine.
That builder, like, yeah, masking fluid is rank. I used a load last night.
He knows. He knows.
I like the smell of petrol, so I'd probably be alright with that.
You'll be all right with oils, but
Yeah.
masking fluid is another level.
Oh, really?
So oils mix really well with each other. So I've added a bit of cadmium orange to that brown, just so I've got a bit of variation on the model. And it also means you don't need hundreds of paints. You just sort of get, the primary and secondary colors you want, and you can mix them yourself to make any variation you like. The secret no paint company wants you to know. Click here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that. Please.
I've obviously been playing with oils a lot recently because one of the things that we were doing with the new Kickstarter was an upgrade for the old wet palettes, so that people could use them for oil paints and then use their new palette for the acrylics. So we've been experimenting lots to see how people can use oils more effectively.
That's a ceramic insert, isn't it?
Glass, but
Glass, sorry, yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it will perform the exact same function as a ceramic would. Yeah. I just thought, yeah, why not?
So once you're happy with what you've chipped off, then
Yeah.
do you need to wait a while before doing anything else to the model? We could go straight in like with a wash. Obviously, you're using oils.
Yeah. So all I would suggest is just waiting long enough for the excess water, or taking off the excess water, and then doing it. Because obviously, if you've got lots of loose water hanging around, it's going to keep trying to reactivate, and that might take off areas you don't want to weather. So yeah, either wait for the water to evaporate, which probably won't take too long, or just help it on its way with a hairdryer or a bit of cloth. Your mileage vary. I think, just to be a bit interesting, I'm going to try a bit of green. This is a wonderful green called Viridian Hue. So if you, Joe especially, or Steve, you like your patina effects, like the nickelide oxide,
Yeah.
this is a good oil version of that. Okay, has everyone got any questions? Just Holland.
I'm just about to apply a wash. Give that a go as well.
I'm going to be really sparing with this because it's quite an intense green. I just want little bits here and there. Almost like the metal at some point was affected by some sort of grimy recess build-up or something. I don't want it everywhere, especially if it's an orc and you're going to be painting the skin green anyway. You don't want them to blend into each other.
So another question for chat, and I apologise, I didn't see this one earlier. Does the glue and bicarbonate mix effect work equally well for a moss or on wood, or is there a better way of doing, say, basing, for instance?
No, so actually I got the bicarb and superglue method originally as a basing technique, and a lot of my models are based with it because bicarb has such a fantastic granular effect. At 28mm scale, it looks like, well, virtually anything at that scale. So things like gravel or moss or buckling metal. So yeah, absolutely, I would use it like that, and I do use it like that. So yes, fantastic.
I think I've said this before on the stream, but the other thing I use for gravel is cat litter.
Yeah.
Because for 28mm, it's the perfect size for like rocks and things.
There's
clean, of course. But...
Oh yeah, not use cat litter. If I may, I have a friend who does some scenics that you can buy pre-made.
Yeah.
So Rival Crafts, Sarah at Rival Crafts, and my favourite one that she does of all time is called Red Canyon Sand, and I love it, and I put it on most things, and of course would that be now that so this one,
cool.
It's got a really nice mix of sizes.
Yeah.
That's really nice, and it's got pigment in it, so it's got basically microscopic dust effect as well. So it situates your model very nicely, and obviously this has lasted me forever because you only need a little bit. So.
And you say that she makes this?
Yeah. So Rival Crafts, Sarah at Rival Crafts. She was, I believe, a veterinary nurse, and she gave it all up to pursue her passion of making gaming Phoenix, and here we are.
So I've seen Rival Crafts before on Flickster's Twitch stream.
Ah, yeah.
He mentioned it because he was doing a commission, and at the time he was using vines.
Yeah.
And you can buy all that sort of stuff from Rival Crafts as well. Really good.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, she does a lot of like sterilizing of real organic materials.
Yeah,
so
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't get more realistic than the real thing. So yeah, well worth checking out.
Cool.
Post a link in chat.
See, and I'm not even getting paid to say that one. I work for Red Crafts, not Rival Crafts.
Well, if you want to set up an introduction, does she also paint, or is it just craft the?
She has very little time to paint. She can paint, will paint, doesn't have time to paint.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah. Perhaps being a guest on Band of Badgers could be the perfect excuse.
There we go.
Got the paintbrush again. Yeah. I think that's looking amazing already.
Yes, I'm very happy with mine. And obviously there isn't much more I'd want to do to it right now anyway, because with the oils I will have to wait for them to dry. But the finish will be fantastic. post pictures. I'll send you guys pictures, obviously, so you can see things up close
Yeah.
rather than just take my word at it.
I think the chipping medium for me will take a couple of tries to get used to, I think. And what didn't help is I think the paint was still wet when I started to pour water.
But I mean, like with so many things in miniature painting, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like nobody's great on their first go. And if I'm any good at all, it's because I've done this lots and lots of times.
Yeah.
And you start to get a feel for things more innately.
Yeah, and that's true of even just the consistency of the paint, and which way it's going to go. Like you was talking about the oil having a capillary reaction.
Yes, yeah.
Seems to be.
But on here, Steve, on this other model I had a Blue Peter stylie. On this tank.
That looks really good.
Yeah, this is a combination of the chipping, the oil weathering that makes those kind of oily streaks, and actually we want it to look glossy. And then down here, this is these weathering pigments.
Yeah.
Which I can I'll move on to that now. You guys do what you need to do, but I will show the good people. Another weathering technique is pigments, which add another element to your model. At least I would if I knew how to open a bottle. So this one is Natural Umber by Vallejo, and it looks just like dust. It's very fine powder. If you don't have any pigments and you can't get hold of any, you can use seasonings from your kitchen. So if you've got something like paprika, that makes a great oxide.
Right.
Just be careful not to put it in your hands or mouth. Put it in your eyes or mouth, sorry. Once you set it, it will set just like this pigment and not come off in your hands. So, you can DIY it if you need to. And again, I've got this is a very old brush. This it's a starter brush. It's a Citadel starter brush. So I bet 4 years ago when I first walked into a Games Workshop and I bought one of those like starting paint kits, and it came with a filter brush, I can bet my bottom dollar this is that brush. As you can see, it's absolutely ruined. You would not paint with that brush.
Wow.
But brushes don't die, they just become useful in different ways. And the way this is splayed becomes a fantastic way to apply pigment. So, it doesn't take any finesse. You just pot it into your pot, make sure you've got a playable amount on the head of the brush. Obviously, shake off any excess. And then, again, no kind of years of technical expertise necessary. You just basically punch it into the model. But look at how fantastically dry it looks.
Yeah.
Which is great for, like, I don't know, if you're doing a quarry scene or, you've got
Mars or something like that.
Yeah, it's great. So put this pigment over the super glue and bicarb soda, you've got yourself a nice sandy base with like zero effort.
Yeah.
And then just to make sure it stays where you want it, you can use varnish or you can use pigment setter. And this, Steve, works through capillary action. You just drop it on and it soaks through the pigment, but it will finish super matte. So it will look as dry as it does now without any liquid on it. So it looks a bit nerve-wracking to begin with, because when you put it on, you go, oh God, it's gone all wet. Ruined the dry effect I was going for, but actually it will dry. Well, as you can see over here where I did it earlier,
Yeah.
it just looks dry again. So just drop it on and the capillary action takes it through the pigment.
Ah, yeah, okay.
like that. So you know, you don't need to be a brush master.
Yeah.
You just need to understand how gravity works.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's such an easy but really, really nice weathering technique.
Being told, Dave, that your Iron Golem looks like the first Iron Man suit that was made in the caves.
Yeah. Apart from this one is red. Red and yellow. But yeah, so that's
Not the plan.
no. There's the Iron Golem, and there's the Iron Man Golem.
Oh, maybe it's Steve's. That's the grey one. Apologies.
It could be.
Like the more rusted one.
You got Mark
That you
1
was
and
talking
Mark
about.
2.
Yeah.
Try some red. So pigments mix again, like oils. They mix in together very well, very nicely. So I've got this ancient bottle of Hombrol weathering powder.
Hombrol.
This is my oxide. I do have paprika, but I like to use it on eggs rather than my models.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to put some of this on. It's a very intense colour, obviously, so less is probably more. But yeah, if you've got AdMech or any Martian scenes, red oxide is your friend.
And would you normally sort of start at the feet and work upwards, like with things like that, or like think of places that the dust would have sort of kicked up to?
Yes.
Suppose.
So on this barrel, for instance, I'm imagining it's kicking up. Dust is coming up from the bottom, so I'm not going to put it up on the top. But a nice place to put it might be where it would collect if the vehicle's been sitting for a long time. So on the feet, for instance, that's a good place to put it because it would have collected kind of in these nooks and crannies like that. But I probably wouldn't put it up in there because it doesn't make sense for it to go in there. But it does make sense for it to go in here or in here. Catch those bottom edges more. And then when you're happy with it, just put your pigment setter on it. Just drop it on. Let the capillary work do the hard work for you. See. Yeah, I mean, just in one short session tonight, we've got acrylic chipping, we've had oil washes, and now we've got pigment brushing, and they all have very different sort of finishes. And as I said, I think I said it was to Joe before we started, the best weathering is where you've got a variation of things rather than all the same. Because obviously that's how it works in real life.
Cool. It's starting to. I'm like Steve. I'm going to need to do a bit more, but I finally got it to come off, and it's looking. It didn't go in the exact position I wanted it to, but I've got when I've practiced around the body, I've managed to get it on these kind of gauntlets and cuffs, and it's looking really good. I mean, it's just the original plastic color coming through. But it's actually highlighting really well.
Yeah, some colours are easier to chip than others, but that again is represented in real life. So red is probably a harder one to do than yellow, for instance.
Yours looks really good.
So you just because
What,
you've done it
the Iron
hard.
Can you see it?
Yeah, that looks really good. I really like that. The bits on the boots look awesome and around the gauntlets.
Yeah. It's this one here. This is it's just really subtle. It's like it reflecting the light, but it's night. The sword went a bit too much, and up here on the shoulder pad was quite nice.
Like none of this can't be corrected later. So don't worry if over the first run it's not gone exactly the way you want it, because then you can add in. You can use your brush and just kind of tap on little dots, or use your scouring pad or your packing foam just to add in a little extra, So now, for instance, Dave, would be the time to get that really bright silver that you wanted to use,
Yeah.
and maybe just dry brush onto the very sharpest edges or chips, and that will make them look super fresh, like they've just been scratched.
Right, let's quickly try that.
And that will help, obviously, focus the viewer's eye. That will help bring in a bit more visual contrast, and suggest time. Like this model didn't get aged 30 years ago and stop. It's in a continuous process of aging. And these are quite subtle thoughts, but overall, they're going to have a really powerful effect on the model. What are you thinking about yours, Steve?
I don't know. I might put some manual patches of rust paint on. I think in the corners, and then I think I'll take the same approach and do some silver dry brushing.
Yeah,
at
great.
the edges.
Obviously, Vallejo do some fantastic silvers. Their metallic range is phenomenal. Although my heart does belong to Dark Star Silver.
Right.
A phenomenal kind of veracity. It looks almost just like white. Can't even get it to focus properly. But look at how intense that is. You can imagine just a spot highlight here and there, maybe catching some nuts and bolts, or a big gouge, or the very tip of your blade.
Yeah.
That's going to be a beautiful kind of light effect. And it's the brightest silver I've ever encountered. It isn't alcohol based. Vallejo do alcohol based ones that are like the most realistic you'll ever get, but they're also incredibly difficult to use. So let's give this a go. I'm going to use my Redgrass 00, shameless product placement, very fine tip, and just catch some of the edges. Obviously, I shouldn't do this now because the oil's not finished drying, but just to show some people, I could do it on the tank actually. I haven't used the oils. So on the rivets on this tank, just like touch a little bit of this silver onto the tops like that, and it's going to look like, through continuous use, the things have been scratched more recently, or run it along the edge here. And these but look at how shiny it is. Looks kind of like real metal.
Yeah, where everything has worn away.
Yeah.
Got that abrasive effect. That is really bright.
Yeah, right. First world problem, but it's actually quite difficult to take a photo of.
Yeah, but I always think minis look worse in pictures than they do when you're holding them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you've got to imagine what Angels looks like in real life.
Yeah. And so that's the paint scheme that I based my Necrons on, was his speed painting, airbrushing Necrons.
But you know what? If you don't have a nice shiny silver metallic to hand, you can use a household item that will achieve a very similar effect, which is a pencil. So if you've got a 2B or HB pencil, I pretend this is a pencil, just run it along the sharp edges, and the graphite will come off it, and it will look like recently scratched metal.
Yeah.
And obviously that costs, provided you've got a pencil lying around your house somewhere, costs nothing to do.
Yeah.
You don't need any complex skills or technical paints. You just need a slightly dull pencil. But yeah, as I say, my heart belongs to Silver by Dark Star. It's just beautiful. It's definitely a less is more one though, because if you were to put it on as say like a base coat, it'd be impossible to highlight because there's nothing brighter. Are there any questions? Are there any other ideas that people might like me to explore or show them, or anything I could go over again to make it clearer? Happy to do that.
No,
Which,
I
which
don't
is
think
your
so.
which is your favourite technique? Would it be the chipping fluid, just because it is such a time saver in the long run?
Yeah, I think. Well, I just think it's fun. I'm not sure it's particularly. It's definitely not time saving, say compared to chipping like a sponge and chipping.
Yeah.
I think it's more fun, and I think the finish is far more realistic than anything we could plan to do in our heads. But it's hard to beat the simplicity of something like an oil wash. Because it is just slap it on and the capillary reaction does the rest for you.
Yeah.
So it depends what you're looking to do. I think chipping is fun. It's not quick, but it is fun. So I think that would be my favourite.
And when choosing those weathering colours
Yeah.
for your undercoat, do you always go on the opposite sides of the colour wheel? So if you're going with a green, you go with a red. Is that the rule of thumb?
It's nice if they line up, but it's not necessarily realistic. So obviously, when we're talking about the heavy metal style and box art parade models, color theory is more important because you want things to look striking and stand out.
Yeah.
Whereas weathering is a very realistic technique, and armors very rarely follow the color wheel.
Yeah.
You don't get nice red and green tanks in real life because it stands out like a sore thumb. So you've got to find that middle ground between, obviously you want a nice paint job, but you want realistic weathering effects.
Yeah.
And what do weathering effects tend to look like? Well, red at most. Otherwise, they're quite dull, natural colors like brown.
Yeah.
Or, matte orange or green. So, yeah, I don't tend to do that. I don't tend to go, right, what's the opposite on the color wheel? I go, what's a very realistic color I've seen from my references?
Yeah. So always going back to the images, like you said at the beginning, go back to that realistic reference material.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be done because you can plot color scheme. If you want the best of both worlds, you can plot a color scheme that does it. So you think about your verdigris patina effects. That's a kind of bluey green. So if you have, I don't know, a red armored orc, make sure that the exposed metal parts are something that would have that patina weathering effect. So it's realistic, but it's also really nice contrast on the color wheel.
We've got another question that says, how about soot staining for like exhaust areas? I know we did like heating, but
Yeah, just use metal slag. Because it's already sooty, like it's specifically meant to be sooty. And if you can't get hold of this metal slag or an equivalent, get your pencil, get a sharp knife, and scrape the graphite, make a powder with it, and then apply that to your exhaust, and that will give you a kind of sootiness.
nice.
Or even simpler, get a really dark grey paint. Like if you've got oils, Payne's grey is a really nice dark grey. Or trying to think what the Games Workshop one is, and it's escaped my mind. Dark Reaper, something like that. Corvus Black, which is grey, helpfully. Just really, really thin it so it's like a Citadel wash, and then apply that to your exhaust, and that will look like a nice soot. It won't have the same. It won't have the same texture, but it will have the same kind of colour.
Yeah.
Cool. Is everyone looking to be done? I think I've done as much as I can for now. There's mine.
Bravo, very nice.
So I've used.
Wonderfully gritty.
Yes, it's actually really come out quite nice. It's picked up quite a lot. I've done over it a few times with the same techniques. Chip in medium, let it dry, add the water, and then brush it off. And it's actually picking it up really nice now in some areas.
I mean, it looks like it's been in a battle, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he looks like he's been in quite a few now and still standing, which I quite like.
The back as well looks really good. Now you've been over that a few times.
In the top here, like this bit, is a big gash, which goes across 2 segments of the armor, and that's come out really nice.
That has.
You might not see it on camera properly, but and then just the edges of the gauntlets and things, and I did just try to do like a bit of dry brushing on there. He's got top of the helmet. It's come out quite nice.
It's really nice, obviously with the black blade and then the very strong contrast chips. Like that's really nice.
Cool. Joe, you happy with what you done?
Yeah, man. I'm really liking these like exhaust pipe bits. I think probably my favourite parts at the minute, where they've come up.
Yeah. So like the heat will have kind of made the paint job brittle and flake away.
Yeah.
Nice.
And like the winging edges, I don't know what you call them. These bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, the abrasion. That looks good.
Yeah.
And I like that orange that you've used as well, because it looks.
Oh, what on these parts?
Yeah, because it looks really realistic. And it's still strong enough. It's still a contrast enough against the red to be obvious.
Yeah, it's almost like the red's starting to fade rather than, and will be flaking off at some point. But
yeah, like sun damage.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I really like it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Steve? You able to zoom in?
Yeah, I can zoom in, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, he's looking quite strong.
So I don't know. I did struggle with the chipping medium. I have to admit. I haven't got the contrast I thought I was going to get because the dark rust colour underneath is quite dark compared to the silver. So I had trouble getting that through. I think the silver was still wet when I tried to take it off. So I think I need a bit more practice.
No, but it's got a lovely kind of shifting effect. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself.
yeah, like on the elbow and stuff.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, there's some nice bits like that bit there on the elbow, like you say. That's cool. There's a couple of bits on the back.
I mean, that's basically true metallic metal that you've done, which takes the world's greatest painters years to master.
I've stumbled across it by accident.
You've painted upwards, So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. It looks a lot nicer than you think it does.
I guess it looks different to what I expected. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to put that on the table.
That would be the champion one. You get if we survive 2 of the normal ones, we'd be like, yeah, we're fine. And then the doors open and out steps the champion one. We're like, what?
Bums.
Ancient.
Unique stat blocks.
The other one I didn't do anymore. I put some colour on the metal bit, but I then I put the chipping medium on, but I didn't get a chance to go over with the metal and then chip it off. So I stopped at that one, but yeah, I will go back to that one, and I'll get some of that green as well. So you can see where I put the oil on because it's a bit more shiny. But
And
that needs to be built up.
mixed media. Use mixed media because different things will weather and finish differently in real life. And if you think you guys obviously going to be using it for things like RPGs, like D&D or Pathfinder, you're going to be encountering a lot of sort of ancient henchmen with various materials. They're not all going to be made of metal. They're going to be leather and wood and bone, and they all weather differently. So mixing all those different things that we've learned together is going to create a very realistic sort of NPC or baddie that you're going to stumble upon in Dungeon Delve.
One of these was going to be a character, so
Great.
I'm not sure which one though. It was going to be that one, but I might go for that one. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was going to be a character for a future game.
Great. Well, I mean, think about how weathering drives story, or how story drives weathering. So if you've got a character piece, you think, well, how has he got that bashed armor? Or it could be you've got this guy, and then something happens in a session, and you want to commemorate that on the model, so you add it to the model later. It's a fun way to add narrative to your models.
Yeah.
Cool. And one last look at yours, James.
Yeah. So here's the Orruk Mega Boss. Not cameraing very well because of all the silver, but I will take some nice pictures for you guys and send them to you.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get we'll do the photos from all of this session. We'll get those up onto our socials as well. If you're not already, check out our Discord. We have a painting section there for all our little kind of mini paints that we do. And follow us on Twitter, and we'll get some pictures up on there as well as Instagram.
We've obviously got Nightbot on voice activation now. Actually, you said Discord. The Discord link popped up.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I did it.
You typed it in.
Oh, okay.
Right, so everybody, if you can, just switch back to your face cams. Beep, boop, boop. There we go. Right. Oh. How are we doing, James? You okay? How James, how was that for you? This is now your second time on Badgers.
I'm feeling jaded. No, I loved it.
The funny thing is, he really is.
I used to be a teacher, so
Camera,
history
camera.
rather than painting.
There we go. There we go. There we can see you now.
Sorry. I used to be a teacher of history rather than painting, and I always used to get a kick out of people learning new things. And so, I think I could probably get into teaching people how to paint if that's what they want. So, I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you, James, for doing that. We have a special section on our YouTube now for these kinds of how to paint special technical effects and things. So check that out. We've got more coming over the course of the year. Where are we? So we're just about to go into July. So July, August and September, we have various artists booked in for all of these kind of technique specials. But we've got more. We've got our Great British Brush Off. We'll start end of July, maybe early August. So I don't think you've seen the last of James just yet as well.
Sorry.
But he's really good, and he's in our time zone, which is fantastic because it helps a lot. But that's it for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, James.
Yeah, thank you. That was really good.
Cool. And check out the rest of our what stuff we got going on this week, Steve. I can't remember. We got a
Wednesday we've
Q&A.
got Q&A, right?
Yes, you have Q&A on Wednesday with
the Ultimate Games Master.
Yeah, and then Thursday is our final Runals.
Yep, again.
Again, yeah.
Take two.
Yeah, final Runals again. So yeah, that's Wednesday,
And Friday?
Thursday this week.
Is there Friday?
Well, Friday we'll talk off stream about
Okay,
Friday.
Friday.
Cool.
And
then
Saturday. More Avernus.
Saturday is Avernus.
Oh
And then-
yeah.
and then
it's gonna be a
Sunday?
good one. War better.
Steve just went funny, yeah. And then Sunday evening,
Is are we allowed to talk about Sunday evening?
it's in the schedule. No, it's not in the
so
schedule.
yes.
It's not in the schedule. Shh, shh. It's not in the schedule.
Because that's technically July and we're still
Yeah,
June.
yeah. We can't reveal. Yeah, shh. We have to wait until when is the first? Is
See,
that
look,
Wednesday?
You
or
put
Thursday?
bear traps this Thursday. You put bear traps down. That I failed to step into that one, so I'm doing good. Tonight's I'm on a roll.
Cool. Right. Okay. So let's get that sorted. Okay. Thank you again, James. It's always lovely to have you on, and thank you everybody for watching. You can check. We'll put some details in the stuff below. But until then, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Adios.